Right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Learning and Skills, 16th of October, 2025. And first item on the agenda, our apologies for absence. Kath, I believe Margaret is absent.
Yes, Margaret has had IT issues. We've had apologies. I'll do officers first. Anne Phillips, Jane Thomas, Mary Thomas. I've received apologies this morning from committee member Councillor Claire Hall, and we've received apologies from the following portfolio holders: Councillor Jackie Charlton, Councillor Jake Berryman, Councillor Matthew Dorrance, Councillor Sandra Davis, and Councillor Glyn Preston.
Thank you very much. Members, are anybody aware of any other apologies? No? With your grace, then we'll accept the apologies given and move on to item 2, disclosures of interest. I don't believe anybody will have any, and similarly with declarations of party whip, we'll take the two together. Has anybody got anything to declare?
No.
No, we'll move on to item 4. The minutes of our meeting on the 11th of September 2025. Before I ask if them as a true and correct record, anybody got any comments in relation to those? No, there we go. I'm looking for a proposer and a seconder to record them as a true and correct record.
Happy to propose, Gwynfor.
Thank you. And seconder there, thank you very much. And on your silence, all in favour? Good. Item 5 on your agenda is our work programme. Some changes to our work programme. Give an opportunity. Dr. Richard, would you like to give us a briefing in relation to why we've altered around our work programme so that we can be clear, the members can be clear that this is a positive direction?
Yeah, thank you very much, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. So we have made adjustments to the forward work programme. Just to explain the logic of it, today, obviously on the agenda, you have our education IBP. That IBP presented today so that you gain an overview of all the objectives that we're working towards to address ESTIN recommendations. We've adjusted the forward work programme to bring in at key points updates against those recommendations. So the forward work programme will now fall from the overview which we share with you today. So what you can be sure of as a committee is that in terms of the IBP, you have the right information in front of you at the right time around the right objectives and recommendations to be able to be properly scrutinised. Of course, that's notwithstanding items that you may ask to be drawn into the programme, which is obviously Chair's prerogative. So thanks for the opportunity just to explain that.
Okay, thanks, Dr. Richard. Members, I accept what has been said. Needless to say, this is an opportunity for us to influence that work programme as well. So if anybody wishes or wants to make any comment on the work programme, now's the time to do it. It's usually taken later in our meeting, but we put it up ahead now because of the changes. So please, if you've got any queries, please raise them now. No, all silent. Councillor Angela.
Yeah, Chair, it would be nice to see the school's progress reports, wouldn't it, at some point? We've talked about that before. We used to get the reports of how all the schools are doing in relation to each other, like an overview.
Okay, comment made. Councillor Allard.
Good morning. I sent you an email this morning, Chair.
Okay, yes, I haven't had a chance to read it.
Haven't had a chance to have a look at it yet, but it concerns Ysgol Calon Cymru and the direction of travel of the council. Maybe we can discuss it after the end of the meeting, but I do want to have a clear understanding of the direction of the council, maybe we can, as a scrutiny, look in more detail at the proposal at some point.
I know it's not an agenda item, but we did have significant discussion on this in our pre-meet. Ali, do you want to just, I'm sorry, shout me down if I'm wrong. Ali, do you want to just give a brief why you're disappointed or concerns?
I don't think the proposal aligns with many of the council's policies.
Right.
Welsh language, school transformation, sustainable powers. I outlined it in the email to you. I know it was pulled from the council's cabinet meeting this week, and I think it's going forward next week, at the next Tuesday at a special meeting. However, I have asked you in that email whether you, if the recommendations are accepted and go forward unchanged, that you consider calling in the decision.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's absolutely fine. So I'm going to ask you now, Aled, is there something different in that paper to what we discussed in our scrutiny meeting when we discussed the Callan Cymru proposal paper?
The fact that nothing's changed since consultation.
Oh, right, okay.
You'd hope the consultation would have an impact on the proposals, but appears that it's going ahead as before.
Okay, accept what you're saying. I'll have a read of the email, and Dr. Richard, Marianne, maybe there's a conversation to be had prior to that, and on the view of I take after reading Aled's email and whatever. So Aled's had the opportunity. Dr. Richard.
Oh, Chair, I just wanted to respond to Councillor Angela if I could, but.
All right, okay. Let's leave that. Yeah, respond to Councillor Angela then, please.
Yeah, Councillor Angela, thank you for your point. Just to say that we have planned in the forward work programme a paper to bring forward around individual school standards. We'll do that once we have the verified data in January. That paper will do two things. It'll give you a full, precise analysis of individual schools' performance, but we'll also be bringing the wider context so that you understand our schools in their family of schools, because we know that we are moving not from simply looking at power schools against power schools, but power schools benchmark across Wales. So we know where we should be in terms of our standards against the quality of learner that we've got. But that paper is scheduled.
Thanks, Richard, for that update. Gareth, undoubtedly you were coming in on Callan Cymru now. I don't want to take this into a debate, but I allowed Aled to make a comment, so I'll allow you to make a comment.
It's just to back up what Aled said, Chair. I know. Okay. To me, the paper says nothing more than the previous one.
Right. Well, we're having a conversation with that prior to next Tuesday's meeting, and hopefully I can give you an update there. Okay. We move back to the agenda now. So that takes us to item 6 on the agenda. So that's our integrated business plan, which we've already heard mention of. I'm going to now at this moment welcome Councillor James to our meeting. I know Councillor James has been coming to our meeting now, but we all know that Councillor James is now the portfolio for education. So this might be an opportune time just to come in and give a short introduction here and speak. So welcome, James.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, thanks for the opportunity just to have a word before we move to this important item. Clearly, obviously, it's a bulky document. Much of it's operational and it's technical and requires considerable professional input from officers. So I won't attempt to take their place on that. But just to say, just to remind members that Eston has accepted that the integrated business plan is the best mechanism, if you like, to implement a post-inspection action plan, the famous PIAP. And so we've managed to, if you like, amalgamate the two. And I think that's just a common sense and sensible thing to do. But it is a very comprehensive document. And I think it's fair to say from the feedback, when we had a quarter 2 performance meeting yesterday, actually, around education. And it seems clear to me that there is a very much improved focus on standards in our schools and mechanisms. The director and his colleagues have put in place mechanisms to ensure that we do help do whatever we can as an authority to drive up those standards in our schools. And I think the GCSE results already actually are starting to show some slight improvement on previous years. In particular, A-level results were disappointing. We've had that conversation before, but you know, I think I feel confident as portfolio holder that this IBP is a good document and provides a good framework to achieve what it is we want to achieve. So thank you.
Thank you, James. Thanks for that brief introduction and overview, and we look forward to working with you. So thank you. Dr. Richard, I'm going to come over to you now. Obviously, we've got a way of working through this document, so I'll give you an opportunity, Dr. Richard, to just give us a lead into it, please.
Yeah, thanks so much, Chair. As the portfolio holder has said, this is quite a bulky document. It is an operational document, although the objectives set out high-level strategies. I just want to do two things if I can. I just want to situate this document in the context of the whole accountability framework. Just to remind colleagues and those watching at home that our Education Integrated Business Plan is inextricably linked with the corporate and strategic equality plan, where our education objectives and key performance indicators are publicly reported. So there's that golden thread that runs from the corporate and strategic equality plan through to our integrated business plan, and then down a further level to our service integrated delivery plans. And that's where the further detail that teams need to deliver on the strategies and the objectives is held. So while the IBP is a bulky document, it does sit in that entire accountability framework. The portfolio holder mentioned Estin there, and portfolio holder is right. Estin have said to us that we can begin delivering against the improvement priorities to address the recommendations, which indeed we've been doing since our inspection back last spring. The reality of a document like this is that it will need to be adapted and it will need to be refined as we engage with Estin in their monitoring visits. That's the purpose of those visits. To make sure that we are focusing on the right things. There may be things that we haven't yet identified that we will identify as work progresses. So there is a degree of flexibility needed in this IBP. I think from my point of view, when I look at the document as it currently stands, I think there's need for further refinement of success criteria and a further sharpening of what the absolute impact of actions will be, but that will happen as we progress through the work. And then I think in terms of school improvement and ALN, there's also need for greater clarity around what the impact of some of our work will be. But again, what we've articulated in the plan is what we need to do to reach a position to be better informed of what we need to do next. So it is it does have to be staged, but my observations in terms of strengthening the plan around success criteria and more clarity around the school improvement and ALN impact. Chair, could I perhaps make a suggestion that in terms of how we use the time? We've got 6 objectives, each linked to recommendations. I know the committee will have looked at the document beforehand, and we've got officers in the room who are the owners of those overall objectives. So if this worked for the committee, we could work through objective by objective. It would roughly split to about 10 minutes an objective, and there'd be an opportunity then for that challenge and scrutiny around those objectives and actions. But what we don't propose is to read through the document line by line. No. I don't think that would be the best use of your time.
Okay. Yeah, I think that was a similar suggestion which we had. So we'll go to objective 1, strengthen the quality and impact of leadership, including political leadership at all levels.
Thank you, Chair. I can see Councillor Gareth's got his hand up.
Okay, go on, Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, can I just make a general point about the document? As Dr. Richard said, it is a very detailed document, but it seems to be very light about any measurements, any KPIs. And I just want to know when we're going to get those within this document, and how are we going to measure the success of implementing? Because at the moment, there's lots of words, but I can't see any target dates for, well, there are some target dates, but not specific enough for each of the 6 criteria in my mind.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Gareth. Chair, what we could do to bring to the committee is bring the performance measures which we've included in the corporate and strategic equality plan. So this document isn't designed to be read in isolation. It's designed to be read alongside those KPIs, which I referenced in the introduction. But if it would be helpful, what we could do is attach an appendices to this working document, which draws those KPIs into it. So, you know, it's explicit then what we're aiming to achieve and how we're holding ourselves to account.
I personally like that to be stronger, Richard. I'd like to actually, for each of the 6 areas that you link, that I'd like to make that as a recommendation, Gwynfor, that we have those key KPIs identified in the body of the text.
Yeah.
It may only be 2 or 3 for each of the 6 areas, but you know, that's important. We need to know we can measure. You know, and Estin will want to know what we're doing as scrutiny to see what we're going to measure.
Yeah, no, it's a fair comment. Marianne, are you coming in on this? Yeah.
Just to clarify as well, Richard mentioned the accountability framework. So just to clarify, we've got the corporate strategic equality plan, then we have the IBP underneath. Just to give you all assurance, for each of the strategic objectives, there is a delivery plan. So the team are working on more detailed delivery plans, and then that will then flow down into individual appraisals. So this is your high level document, and then the detail is in the individual delivery plans. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Lucy, Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. It was just something else that was raised in our pre-meeting, which is around the document as a whole. And what you've said clarifies the situation, but in a way makes it more concerning when we learn that there's a lot more detail to come underneath. We did, undoubtedly, we talked about the fact that there weren't sufficient sort of measurable things coming out of it and the detail about how you were going to achieve what was set out in the plan. But there was also some concern about the amount of information, the amount of the number of different elements that you were trying to address within the plan and how broad it was, and the concern that there was just so much in there to try and achieve, and would it not be more manageable to concentrate on fewer items and have, you know, very clearly defined timescales and be clear that you're able to achieve those, rather than having such a broad breadth of items that you're trying to work on?
Go on, Dr. Richard.
Yeah, Councillor Lucy, I think that's a really important point, and it is something that we have discussed and tried to strike the right balance around. I think, you know, you'll be aware that we haven't written a post-inspection action plan. Mainly because when we've taken learning from the past, when we've taken that approach, we've concentrated on a very narrow focus of things as defined by the inspectorate, which I think accounts for our sort of yo-yoing effect, really, when it comes to education improvement. In this plan, we're approaching it as wider than a post-inspection plan so that we bring about that sustainable improvement. But we have within the document mapped the Estin recommendations against the objectives. It does add a layer of complication, which I think, you know, which you've all noted. But equally, I think if as a service we can balance it, it means that we address the Estin recommendations while considering the bigger improvement picture. But I think the points you've noted about doing things in the right order, concentrating on the right things first, is it's a really important one, and it is one that we're really alert to.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Angela, final point now before we go through the objectives. Councillor Angela. I think you're mic'd, Angela.
So I am sort of going into the document, really. First, I just want to say thank you to Dr. Richard. He sort of answered some of my questions. That there is a recognition there that there's more information, KPIs and success criteria need to be more clearly. And I would agree with my colleagues that I would like to see them within the document, because looking at several documents together is a little bit confusing for those of us who are not doing this in our everyday. So I would rather see them in the document. But I'm going right back to the beginning here on page 4 of the document, page 30 of the pack. So by October 2025, we're in October now, education is to be championed across the entire council, and I absolutely support that, and I agree with that. But my question here, this sets the theme of my questions for the day: how? Because basically, how? 68 councillors, are all councillors governors in their schools? Do all councillors have an understanding of what's happening within education and in Powys? And how can you, as an education service, ensure that they do? Because this seems to me fundamental, the bottom foundation building block of how to set things right. If you're making that statement, how are you going to carry that forward?
Go on, Dr. Richard.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's a huge statement, isn't it? And it's an ambitious statement. Education's championed across the council. I think what I would say first of all is that it's not just education that need to do that. It's services across the council. It's leaders at all levels across the council and leaders in our schools as well. How we go about it, I think fundamentally we go about it by better use of data, better evaluation, so we bring better, more transparent and honest information through to colleagues across the council and within the wider system, so that we all understand the position of education in Powys and the position of our schools within that. I think from that point on, it's a relentless task then of clarity of information and education and professional learning for those partners. But it's an absolute challenge to move education front and centre into the thinking of our council. Hence why it needs to be permanently referred to and constantly worked towards. And the strategies in this section do indicate how we'll do that. Member development sessions, you know, improved governor conferences, improved professional learning, etc. You know, but again, the scope of the challenge is not lost on us.
No. Okay, thank you. But I mean, there is no mandatory requirement for councillors to be governors. And if you know, we can all sit on committees. There's no way that you can enforce that they're actively involved or, you know, but yes, obviously the first step is that you provide adequate and easily digestible information. So yes, I welcome that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for your comments thus far. Members, let's move on to objective 1. Who's leading on this, Dr. Richard?
Chair, you know, we've started the discussion on that, so I'll continue with that. So objective 1, so I'm just going to flick back because I moved through papers as we were working. So objective 1, strengthen the quality and impact of leadership, including political leadership at all levels. And we've started the discussion around that. I won't work through the strategic action. Shall I just open it to the committee, Chair, for questions or comments, suggestions around objective 1 and the strategic actions listed?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine. Members, any questions on objective 1? I'm assuming you can all access it. It's 2024 on. Yeah.
If there's no questions, Chair, I could just highlight some key areas from it.
Go on. Yes, please.
Okay, I think R2 strategic action 1.1, the golden thread between plans at all levels. Marianne spoke about the accountability framework. The IBP, the CSCP, the integrated delivery plans, they are more than just documents. It is a new accountability framework, which links from those whole council corporate objectives down to individual colleagues' appraisals. So I think the point around the golden thread is a really important one. Speaks in part as well to Councillor Angela's point around how do we get a whole council motivated around education improvement? Well, that's to ensure that people see their role and their part in it. So I did want to note that.
Thank you, Dr. Richard.
Councillor Angela.
Yeah, so
Go on, Angela.
you've brought us down the page there. So under recommendation 2, you've mentioned that golden thread, and there are some success criteria there listed. So by July 25, the priorities will be embedded within the CSCP, and then by December 2025. But there's no indication here for us how we're doing along that trajectory. So are we on target? Is that likely to happen? I'm guessing you're going to tell me there's another document, but therein makes it difficult for me as a school governor and a member of Scrutiny. How many documents do I need at once? So if this is going to be a live document, as you've sort of indicated in the beginning, it's going to be live, you're going to update it, you're going to change it. How do we track that? And how can we make a judgment how you're doing if all we've got is an end goal?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Angela. So I am going to say that those measures are in the CCP. However, I'm going to refer back to the forward work programme of this committee. So as I said, this is the overview of the whole document. And then at key scrutiny meetings, we'll be bringing forward an impact report against the objectives and the recommendations. So you have at scheduled points during the academic year, key reports which will answer directly that question that you've just posed. And those reports have been scheduled at points where the service have the data that they need to be able to bring forward to you so you can have the whole picture of improvement or not.
Okay, and those will show us the targets, how you're progressing against these specific outcomes. Yeah. Okay, lovely. That's good.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
Okay, thank you. And sorry, Chair, can I just butt in again?
Go on,
so can I check that these outcomes then, these have gone to Estin and these have been approved by Estin as being the relevant targets for each of the aims within the plan?
Yes, that's right. So they've been approved through the CSCP. They've also been through our Accelerated Improvement Board, which you're all familiar with, and they've also been submitted as an appendices with this document to the Inspectorate.
So we can have some assurance then as scrutineers here on this committee that the council has got the right goals in mind, even if, okay, that's great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and just could I just add there that the goals and the measures, they are a appropriate balance of quantitative and qualitative data. Right. So there are hard targets, but plus the qualitative data as well, which we've been asked for.
Okay.
Chair, the Strategic Action 1.2, this is absolutely key to make sure that we've got the right staff in the right roles. Scrutiny Committee will see some new faces on the calls today following appointments of new heads of service who you'll meet further on in the meeting. And we're also, as you know, in the process of restructuring the education service. We've made some new recruitments and we're also working around roles, responsibilities of existing staff. But key and aligned to that, we've also developed a professional learning programme for the service. So to give you an example of that, we're currently working with our senior managers to look at our skills of evaluation. And we've had external support from Nick Batchelor to deliver sessions to our extended leadership team around evaluation, what good evaluation looks like, what good inquiry looks like of data. I think that's an important point because unless we've got the right people with the right skills, we aren't going to be able to deliver on anything that's included in the plan.
Okay.
Thank you. Any more questions on objective 1? There's a reference to scrutiny membership. Scrutiny member. Are you asking something around that, Aled? Yeah.
Oh no, just a quick one. Richard highlighted 1.2 there. It's about how do you measure that? Really, is we haven't got the objective. The
KPIs,
stats,
really, yeah.
Yeah, KPIs is key stats to deliver on that. Is the number of schools in Estin review or special measures or whatever part of those key objectives? Do you have a date by, by 2028, 29, or whatever, that no school will enter any Estin category?
Yes, Councillor Aled, we do. So we have the outcomes of inspections, but just to note at this point, I'm mindful how I say this, it's not all about Estyn as well. While the Estyn inspections are absolutely crucial for us because it is that view of the external auditor, we know that one of the fundamental things that we need to do is know our schools better ourselves before the inspectorate tell us about them. So we do have Estyn outcome measures, but we also have measures which are aligned to new processes and systems that we've introduced in the service around the standards in our schools.
Yeah, I use Estyn as a shorthand for standards.
Yeah.
It all comes back to the standards achieved by each school and each child in each class, and it's that key element that Gareth referred to at the very beginning is, just a one-liner of the highest of a KPI within that, so we clearly understand what the council is expecting. Not all the KPIs that flow out of it, but the one headline sort of KPI within that sort of context would be useful for this.
Yeah. So what we'll be able to share, because these are the objectives we set, so it's our expected achievement for all learners across the authority at Key Stage 5 and Key Stage 4, and within that, what our expectation is for groups of learners within the authority. And we have set those KPIs, and they're ambitious KPIs based on benchmarking with other local authorities. So it's that move from comparing ourselves to ourselves, a move to comparing ourselves to authorities with a similar demographic of ourselves. So we have those broken down to groups of learners across each key stage, which we'll be able to share with you.
Thank you. Sorry, Chair, for interrupting.
No, absolutely fine. I just wanted to take you to the section in relation to scrutiny members. There's 3 bullet points there. One, we're obviously and rightly so regarded as an important part in this leadership and challenging in relation to this. I just wonder, in developing a clear understanding of educational data and its implications for policy and practice, perhaps a challenge to the committee. Do you think we're well versed on that, or do you think we need some support in relation to that so that we do understand educational data? Okay, silence. So we're good to go with that. I just wonder if there is some assistance that we should be reaching out for there, so that we're clear that we can give the challenge, which we can. But
can I butt in, Chair?
Go on, Angela.
Can I say continuous?
Yeah, I was just going to say the challenge for us, or the challenge for me as a member of Scrutiny, is I am not working with school data every day like you are. No. And you can look at it and read it, and as you've just talked about, joining up documents. So for me, you've just described what's going to happen next with regard to our work programme and how you're going to bring data to us. I think it would be useful, certainly for me, if before that meeting we have a pre-meeting to just talk us through what we should be looking at in the document and how to navigate the document, I guess. I think we're quite well versed in asking questions. We use our own schools as an example and experience, but for the wider document, that would help me. Just remind me kind of thing how to navigate your document, particularly if it's going to be laid out differently to how we've seen previously.
Okay, maybe that can become a little bit more detail in the pro forma would help us with that one. Yeah, Councillor Lucy. Lucy, your microphone.
Sorry, thanks, Chair. Can I go on and mention something in relation to school governors at 1.4?
Yeah, no, that's right. They're an important part in this leadership, aren't they?
Yeah, and I just wanted to come on to, I mean, it's such a difficult balance, and I appreciate that governors need training and they need to be kept updated and they need to attend meetings, but governors are also volunteers, and it's not always easy to find people who are happy to be governors, and certainly not always easy to find the people with the right experience and understanding. And sometimes I feel, I know it's not a choice, but sometimes I feel it's almost would be better for the local authority just to have responsibility for the schools. And because sometimes it just feels like it's another just kind of some holding things up, or yeah, anyway, sorry. But also in terms of local authority governor appointments, again, it seems to be particularly difficult to find local authority governors. I'm sure, as Angela's mentioned, there are county councillors who aren't school governors, and perhaps every county councillor should have to be a governor, assuming they've got a school in their ward, and all of them at least will have children feeding into secondary schools. But also, I think that it's not particularly helpful when you have local authority governors who've been governors for a long time, having to fill in an application form to be a governor again when the school has asked them if they would possibly stay on, because either they've been doing a reasonable job or they haven't. If they haven't been doing a good job, then the LEA should know about that anyway and just be able to say, no, that's not appropriate. But if you have been doing a reasonable job, frankly, getting a request to fill in an application just makes, and I know I'm not the only one, me feel like saying, well, okay, I don't really want to do it that much. So that's just a little bugbear.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Lucy. There's a couple of points there. First point is in relation to governors being well versed. Governors need to challenge this IB as well. Or have I abbreviated that wrong then? But they need to be in a situation to challenge that as well. And also Lucy, and she's not alone in this in relation, and it's raised in this committee before. Councillor Pete was adamant that he didn't want to change that process, and I know Councillor Lucy's written to you, Councillor James. So I'll come to you first about the onerous process of getting governors into governing bodies. So I don't know, Councillor James, if you want to make a comment on that, but obviously you're new into it and whatever.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, indeed, Lucy has written to me, and I know you were copied in, and my intention was to reply today after the meeting because I suspected this was going to come up. Totally agree with her. It's it is really it's difficult to find governors of suitable people to sit as governors on school governing bodies. My experience of asking people in my area to do so is very often I found very suitable people, but who actually, when they do start doing it or start getting involved in the process of becoming a governor, they run for the hills because they just think, oh, I can't cope with this anymore. I've got too much on my plate anyway. So it is very difficult. Of course, I suppose in a way it's not uniquely difficult in Powys, but it's more difficult in Powys and elsewhere because the number of schools we've got spread over what is a relatively small population, and so pro rata we have to find more governors than other counties have to, simply because of the number of schools we've got. So it's a doubly difficult issue. I just don't feel qualified to say whether we should change the process. I don't know how much of that process is written law, in which case we can't change it, but it's a matter we just have to follow the rules. But I do agree. We really do need to think very carefully about how we go about making it easier to recruit governors to governing bodies, because they play such a crucial role. I mean, as far as members being governors, my own personal view is I've always felt conflicted, actually, as a member of council, being on a school governing body. We sit as a full council and set the council's budget, and we determine how much money goes to each individual school through the delegated budget process, through the formula. And then we go and sit on governing bodies and tell us, or have an influence in the school as to how that's actually spent within the school. And one could argue there is a bit of a conflict of interest there. But I understand the other argument as well, which Lucy has very clearly explained. So it's a balance, isn't it? And I think it's very much a matter of individual choice. And I wouldn't want to insist that a county councillor be a governor of a school. I don't think that would be right. I think that's really a matter for the individual. But I think, perhaps I've said enough. You've got plenty more to get through in this meeting. So I know that Richard and Sarah would like to come in.
Yeah, Councillor James, just consider, I understand your comments in relation to the process, but it does appear that when you've got a returning governor, it does appear that the process is very onerous then.
It's very bureaucratic, yeah.
Yeah, just consider something in relation to that. Perhaps make that part of it a little bit easier at this point.
Sure.
And quickly on our other point in relation to governors owning improvement as well. And giving challenge to what is proposed. Dr. Richard.
Thanks so much, Chair. I'll be quick because I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah.
First of all, to Councillor Lucy's point around, local authority taking the, essentially taking on the running of schools. The system has this tension in it, doesn't it? We've got willing volunteers who are leading and responsible for our schools and adopting their delegated responsibility, and then the local authority, has to have the right sort of relationship with those governing bodies. I think for me that it is about making it as reducing the bureaucracy of it. So I think we'll take that away and consider it, but I think it's also about how do we support governors and governing body members with the right professional learning to be able to perform their function. I think Sarah might want to come in on that. Sarah.
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Richard. And I think a new development is that we've just launched the PL platform for governors. It's a live system so that they can more easily access the training offer, which was fully reviewed over the summer term. And something that will make some of you that are governors happy is you don't need VPN to access it. You can just go straight on there. So hopefully that will be a welcome change. Also, very quickly, because again, I am mindful of time, supporting those governing bodies that aren't able to find a nomination for an LEA governor is something that we're looking at and are hoping to move to a supportive advertising mechanism, and is certainly something that we could talk about in more detail at some point in the future.
Good, Sarah. That's good information. Thank you very much for that. All right, objective 2. We're going to have to motor on a little bit, so we'll go to objective 2, which is page 43. Who's going to lead us on this? I'm scrolling down as quick as I can. So who's coming in on objective 2?
That's me, Chair.
Hiya, Sally. Welcome, Sally. Congratulations on your interim appointment. Again, quickly say, look forward to working with you and wish you well on this. So thanks, Sally.
Diolch yn fawr, Councillor Gwynfor. Bore da pawb. Okay, objective 2, a really important objective, but again, really aware of time. We're 10:43 now. It's just over. So any questions, comments around objective 2, which is, as you say, page 44 in the pack, to strengthen the quality of support and challenge to schools to improve outcomes for all POWIS learners. Well, there will be a full scrutiny report paper on this in January when we do have that verified data which has come up, and as KPIs have been a sort of big part of the conversation today, I just wanted to reassure all of the colleagues on the call that we do have robust KPIs here around outcomes data linked to GCSE and A-level performance, which includes CAP 9 scores. We have performance data around schools in category, so that's come up already this morning. We've also got more qualitative data, as Dr. Richard said. Quantitative data forms the bedrock of a lot of our performance measures for this objective, but we are looking at qualitative data as well, and the first-hand evidence that we will be gathering from our schools and the mechanisms that we have to do that and to quality assure the robust challenge around that, that myself and Eirig Towns, who's also on the call here, are leading on for this objective. So it comes down to those 4 areas, which really could be summarised as systems, data, skills, and then the performance of groups of learners. So can I take any questions around anything in objective 2, please?
Councillor Angela's first up.
Hi, Councillor Angela.
Hello, thank you. Thank you very much, Sally. So that's all great. And reading through here, we're going to strengthen the visits to school, etc., etc. So my question is, aren't we already doing that? You know, we've had these documents before and we've had these claims. We're going to strengthen the support. We're going to be more robust. And these are great words, aren't they? So what have we been doing up to now that's not been so good?
So we have always been doing that. We have always collected data on our schools. We have always tried to support our schools with effective self-evaluation. What's different, I would argue, going forward is the approach that we are taking and have been taking since I returned from my Welsh Government secondment in the summer term, is to integrate the work of the learning and improvement teams. So school improvement and learning now happens hand in hand. We've managed to stabilise the team in terms of the school improvement advisors going into schools. We've got a very strong, particularly in our secondary schools now, that we hadn't had previously. So we've got a strong, consistent team of school improvement advisors working very closely with a team of professional learning advisors, and they are already in our schools providing collaborative support and challenge to our senior leadership teams in schools, and they have hit the ground running, co-gathering that first-hand evidence of standards, of outcomes, and are supporting and challenging our school leaders to set the right development priorities. We've never had those priorities as early as we've got them this year. We've mapped those across the county and beyond the county as well, and we are working in a bespoke way to deliver the exact support our schools need right from the get-go. That's the difference, Councillor Angela.
So it sounds like that internally your teams are communicating better and working better together.
That's been a huge priority for us, and that comes under in the objective 2.1 there, refining school improvement systems, as well as the data that we're using then to manage those systems. So our development of a number of, we've always collected that data, we've always had it, we've never had it in one place, and we've never had it in a way where we can be really effective about how we challenge our school improvement advisors on how that data is being used on the ground in schools to move our schools on, whether that's concerns we might have around safeguarding, HR, finance, leadership, teaching and learning. Now we collect all of those categories together in a data matrix, and part of our quality assurance of our school improvement advisory team's work is on a weekly basis to pull in different school improvement advisors to talk about clusters of schools, individual schools, to analyse that data and really be clear about what the next steps are so that we can show that improvement that is happening in our schools week by week, term by term, and the quality assurance processes that we have in place to check and balance that as a local authority.
Okay, can I just add to that, Chair, then, if within that communication ring where everybody's speaking to each other, can I please make a plea that the schools are part of that communication? It has happened in the past. There have been some really good challenge advisor meetings and things in the school, and I think it's been a little bit up and down as how they've gone over the years. And sometimes I feel perhaps at the moment we're not quite all on the same wavelength, and I think that's important that the schools are involved in that conversation as well.
Couldn't agree more with that, Councillor Angela. I'm very much a done with person rather than a done to, and the way we are leading the learning and improvement team to work alongside our schools in that supportive and challenging way is to make sure that that triangle of school improvement advisor, professional learning support, and the school leadership, whether that's senior leadership, middle leaders, and even down to practitioner level in our schools, that communication, that triangle is as strong as it possibly can be, and that we accept responsibility at school level, that there is we need to eradicate this sort of sense of sometimes of learned helplessness as well that exists within our schools, that the local authority will come in and sort this out for us. These are the schools' issues to resolve with our support. We bring that support in, but we also offer that challenge that this responsibility sits with them, because those learners sit with them, and their learners are at the heart of everything we need to do. So there's a really strong collaboration. We're taking the data matrix to our area heads meetings next week to do exactly that and work collaboratively with senior leaders across Powys to help them to understand the success criteria that sits behind the data matrix, and to provide their feedback to us on that data matrix, and to really unpick how that data matrix could be used as a collaborative tool, not as a tool to tell schools what's right and what's wrong, but to help a conversation to unpick those areas of concern, where the support needs to go in, which services in the council need to provide that support, because sometimes that sits, as we've said earlier, this is about leadership across all areas of the council. It's not just what we're doing within the education service, so it's drawing on all those services, because sometimes it's a property related issue, sometimes it's a HR related issue, that is an issue for those schools. So we need to make sure that we really understand all of that criteria and we work together to solve those problems.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you, Chair, and thank you.
Yeah,
Sally.
thank you, Sally. Very
Diolch yn
comprehensive. Just on our school improvement leaders or advisors. You said about secondary schools, you've got a very strong team. Can I just ask, have we seen a rejig on our advisors there? I don't want to know the detail, but
so I would say,
yeah,
it's been consistent. Well, some mechanisms we put in place last year to get the right people into our schools with the right background, the right levels of experience, the right ability to build those relationships. We started that in a small way last year with some engagement with our new school improvement advisors, but we've been able to increase the amount of support those particular individuals are bringing so that we could stabilize that consistent relationship building and that trust that began last year that we've been able to secure now over the summer. And that's why we've been able to hit the ground running in September, because it's a continuation of a conversation, not starting a new conversation.
Good. There was one key thing you said then was that you were challenging your advisors as well. So that's absolutely great. I'm coming to you, Aled, but Marianne and Eirik have both put their hands up in relation to this. So I'm coming to them first.
Marianne. Can I just quickly comment on what Sally said, really? At the beginning of your response to Angela, you said, and beyond the county.
Yes.
So are you looking at the data in other schools?
We certainly
outside, where our pupils access many of their courses?
We are working in partnership with a number of local authorities to develop our school leaders' understanding of what school improvement looks like, what positive outcomes can look like, how we can raise the standards in teaching and learning. In particular, as you know, we are strongly linked with Ceredigion as part of the Mid Wales Education Partnership. So we are sharing school development priorities across those two local authorities to pair schools together to work collaboratively to solve solve the issues they've got together as part of that collaboration as well.
Okay, I thought you were talking about learners you were talking about learners at the time. I'll listen back to the recording. Perhaps I got the context wrong, but I thought you were indicating
schools working with schools, Councillor Aled. Yeah, schools working collaboratively together to resolve shared priorities is what I was referencing. Okay,
let's go to, I'll give you a chance to come back, Aled. Let's go to Marianne and then Eirik, please.
Okay, Jim. Just observing and thinking about Councillor Angela's question about what has changed, and I think you can really feel it coming through, the fact that we are trying to change the culture and the ethos not only of the education service but of the wider council, because school improvement is everybody's business. It's everybody's business, from the clerks of the governing bodies to the officers doing the backroom functions to frontline officers as well, across all the departments. And what we're putting in place now is a strong culture of less silo working. We're all coming together. There's a restructure going on within the education service so that we can have better information sharing, better intelligence between all the various departments. We've got property colleagues on the call here, working really closely with them as well. So you can hopefully feel and see that we're on course to really shift the culture of the service and of the wider council as well. Just to put my 2 pence in there. Okay.
Good. Eirik?
I'll probably come in after Marianne and add my 2 pence now. But again, I just wanted to thank Councillor Angela. She makes a very valid point about communications with schools. We cannot do this improvement without our schools working with us. We cannot work in isolation. So we have to help and support them. And the only way we can do that is clearly communicating what all of us need to be doing and working together. So, through our area heads meetings, through our head teacher meetings that we have across the years in our different fora, we need to be ensuring that it's clear communication about what we are doing, how we're helping each other and supporting each other. Yes, there is challenge inside that as well, because we're challenging each other to do the best for our learners. But it is a really important point that Councillor Angela raised, is about clear communication and making sure our schools are part of this process as well. So thank you, Councillor Angela. We agree completely with that point.
Okay, thank you very much. There are some comments in the chat which I hadn't picked up on. Sorry, you've caught me eating a bit then. I was flagging a little bit. Anything else on objective 2? I am quite keen to move on, but if somebody's got a burning desire on objective 2, I know Sally'd be keen to address it. Okay, we'll move to objective 3, which is on page 55 or 54, 55. Who would like to lead on this one?
Bore da, Chair, bore da pawb. I just quickly want to introduce myself before I start.
Hi, Judith.
I've recently taken over the position of Head of ALN and Inclusion and Wellbeing, so it'll be myself that addresses this objective, which is to improve the well-being of pupils so that they feel safe, valued, and can thrive as healthy, confident individuals.
Welcome, Judith.
Diolch yn fawr, thank you very much. And I'm happy to take any questions in relation to this objective.
Members, as you know, we have been very keen on ALN on it. Margaret isn't with us today, so opening up for questions in relation to objective 3. Oh, there we go. Councillor Angela, I'm glad you came in then.
So ALN, are we including more able and talented in this section?
This section is more about the well-being rather than focused ALN.
Mm-hmm.
So objective 4 will cover ALN, Councillor Angela.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Sorry, that's fine. They're so closely intertwined. You know, I understand that completely.
I led you up the wrong path there, Angela. I really do apologise.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this objective, if our learners don't feel safe and valued, they can't learn, can they? They've got to arrive in school in the right place to be able to absorb any information, no matter how good or poor the actual education is, if they're not there feeling valued. So yeah, so obviously it is a really important one.
Absolutely.
I mean, for me, these documents are always so difficult because they're so strategic, aren't they? And I just want to keep asking you how. But as Dr. Richards already explained, that information will come at a later stage. So yeah, nothing wrong with the ambition, but yeah, I'm keen to know how. What are you going to do? You're not in school every day, are they? So for those children who are not attending school for a whole variety of reasons, and we do have children at the moment who have not been allocated the places that they feel or their families feel that they should be. They're not in school at the moment. So basically we're not able to address this, are we, for those pupils?
Dr. Richards got his hand up, so Dr. Richards coming in there.
Oh, sorry, Chair. I was going to make a different point before Councillor Angela raised that point. I can see Sarah's put a hand up in response to,
Go on, Sarah.
to the point about learners not being in school, and I suspect Simon will want to come in on that as well too. Thank you.
Yes, so just in response to your question, Councillor Angela, we would always be working really hard with the school and with the family to support that learner to either increase their attendance or resume school attendance if they've had a break for whatever reason, maybe due to illness or something. So it would be working around their individual needs for the learner and making sure that that's regularly reviewed to check that it's working.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Councillor James. James, your microphone.
Yeah. Sorry, apologies, Chair. You brought me in quicker because Alex was ahead of me. No, thank you. I just wanted to, on this issue of attendance and the quantity, which is a connected issue, the quantity of young people who are being educated outside our school system. The acronyms for home educated children change almost every year, but at the moment elective home education I think is the current phrase, but education otherwise and all sorts of things have happened in the past. But the figure is of huge concern, and it's far too high. from my perspective. Although clearly parental choice is very important, but it is terribly important for us as a local authority to ensure the well-being. The more children are in school, the better able we are to ensure their well-being. The more children are out of school, the more worry there is about those children. So I just think we do have targets for attendance, and the 90% figure has been used in this document. That still means, that's actually, in my view, quite a modest ambition. I'd like to see that figure higher, but I understand, particularly post-COVID, how difficult it is, and the recent surge has been in parents choosing to keep their children out of school. And COVID is still connected to that, although I think that impact should be fading now. But so, yeah, I just wanted to make it clear that for me, as the current portfolio holder, that is a very high priority. This objective is extremely high priority, and attendance is a key part of that. So thank you.
Good. I believe, Sarah, you're coming in there as well. Thank you.
Yes, certainly, Chair. Just to give some assurances around the points that Councillor Gibson has raised. We amended our model of support for learners who were educated at home. So previously, the academic year before last, we had officers who were standalone. We revised that model and made it part of the everyday work of the education welfare officers, because sometimes children are sometimes educated at home for a short period of time and then return to school. So that gives that continuity for the family and for the learner in terms of the support that they're receiving. So I just wanted to give some assurance there. It's noted that the numbers have been increasing, but I would just like to say that that's a national position as well, across all 22 local authorities, and something that we're certainly working to support families with. Are you on mute, Chair?
No.
Microphone up because I was eating. Simon, sorry, I'm bringing you in there now, and then I'm going to Councillor Allard and Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, thanks, thank you, Chair. Excuse me. Just to say that there are some other innovative ways we're trying to help with this as well. So we're just about to begin a programme around emotionally based school avoidance. So that's the term for children who are struggling to come into school. Maybe that's for well-being, maybe that's for mental health reasons. So we're just about to launch a programme called EBSA Horizons. And that's not just about responding when children are already struggling. It's a partnership framework. So it's proactive, it's preventative, and it addresses barriers in the whole system. So we'll be working with schools, but at the same time and together, we're going to be working with parents and children. So that whole kind of approach to looking at emotionally based school avoidance and bringing all of the parties together, because we've mentioned more than once this morning about collaboration, and we can't do it alone. So bringing everybody together to look at the needs and how then we can support families to enable children to access education when they're struggling to. But in addition to that, we've also initiated several parent forums. So we're working with Parent Voices in Wales, who are assisting us in co-producing strategies, co-producing policies that they think are going to be relevant to help parents and families. And we're also starting today our first parent carer drop-ins across the county. So parents can see the inclusion and wellbeing team, but also we can help facilitate those networking of parents. So some parents may have experienced things and can offer support and guidance to other parents. So we're looking at those kind of innovative ways of supporting children who are struggling to access education.
Thank you, Simon. Councillor Allard.
Thank you.
Councillor Allard.
Thank you, Chair. For some children, being in school does have a negative impact on their well-being. There's no doubt about that. We're brilliant at strategies and policies, and it's a doing that's really concerning. We've been talking about this for years and years, and still people fall by the wayside. what commitments have other third sectors, not third sector, but third parties, what commitments have they got to delivering this plan? Because they are crucial to it, CAMS or other organizations. It's great hearing about strategies and stuff, but I just simply see no delivery on these. And, it's not something new. It's been with us for a long, long time. And, we need to be beyond the stage of developing policies and strategies and delivering for these young people who are really being negatively impacted by the lack of support within schools and other organizations. Thank you.
It's a fair comment, which we raised on a few occasions within the scrutiny. Simon.
Thank you, Chair. So you're absolutely right, Councillor Elliott. We have commitment now from our partnership agencies. So we have our ALN integrated steering group, which consists of the local authority, the health board, and other key stakeholders. And we have an action plan with commitments against that action plan. So we are working closely together to enable these things to happen in schools. And that is then reported directly to a joint directors meeting between the health board and the council as well. So it is a focus, and we are keeping on track of that. But it is very important, like you say.
Judith is coming in to help as well. Judith.
Yes, I just want to reiterate that partnership working is a big focus of this IBP for us, and we're very committed to ensuring that we get partners on board. We all realise we can't do it alone for these youngsters, and we need to work in a multi-agency fashion as much as possible to support their needs. We're also looking at a whole school approach and advocating whole school approaches to mental health and wellbeing across our schools. And that incorporates the trauma-informed schools network, the whole school approach to mental health and wellbeing. So there's a lot of whole school practice going on as well to support learners, but I fully appreciate the need to work in a multi-agency fashion.
Thank you, Judith. Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I've got a couple of points. If I start on one around education otherwise to start with, I'm quite interested that Simon never mentioned that Children's Services is part of the partnership that's working. I thought that Children's Services would be an important part in that partnership alongside health. Is there a paper that can be shared with members to say how that partnership is working so we can understand? I know Councillor Jeremy Pugh, for example, has got a lot of concerns around what he believes is an increase in some mental health issues with some of the children that are educated otherwise. Second to that, what is the financial position around any funding that the authority gets for children or education otherwise, or do we not get any and we actually lose money from them being outside our PLAS returns? And then the final question, going back to attendance, I'm aware that there are some schools that organise trips such as skiing during term time. How are those days recorded? Because my assumption, if a family took children on a skiing trip, that's on unauthorised absence. What's the position when a school takes children on the same trip?
Okay, getting into a lot of detail here now, but yeah, let's get these questions answered. Simon, then followed by Sarah.
Yeah. Councillor Gareth, are you specifically thinking about educated otherwise than at school? So that cohort.
Otherwise, yeah, the ones that otherwise than at school, yeah.
Yeah. So so as a local authority, we have to be able to deliver EOTUS. That's the acronym for the children educated otherwise than at school. We do this in a number of ways. So we have our approved facilities as part of that educated.
No, I'm thinking that the ones home educated, the ones where the parents have actually removed the children from the education system and home educated.
Oh, so EHE, so electively home educated.
Yeah.
So elective, and I can bring Sarah in on this because she's more au fait with the legislation than I am, but electively home education, the parents are assuming responsibility and control of that child's education. So the local authority monitors appropriate education provision for the children who are home educated, but we don't provide funding per se for that learning. But Sarah, do you want to come in and...
Yeah, well, and the other aspect of the question, Simon, is what funding does the authority get through the funding mechanism? Maybe a question for Nancy through the settlement, or do we not get any funding through the settlement for the elective home educated children?
Let's have somebody to think about that. We'll take Sarah first.
You're on mute, Sarah.
Still muted, Sarah.
Apologies. So in terms of support for children who are home educated, we receive a small amount of grant funding, which enables us to offer vouchers for books and also resources to the families. We undertook an engagement exercise with them a couple of years ago to find out what they would prefer to receive, and the offer that we were offering was what they preferred to receive. So we continue to do that annually as we receive the grant funding for it. There is also, in response to Councillor Gareth's question, although Nancy might have some further information, we do also receive a small amount of grant funding to support with staff resources for the engagement with electively home educated, families of electively home educated children. And then just to pick up on the question about attendance coding for school trips, if a family chooses for their child to engage with a school trip that's been offered by the school, that would count as present.
Okay,
but if they take the same trip just as a family trip, they're then unauthorized.
It's a school decision around holiday.
Okay,
thank you. And Nancy, just on the finance side of it.
Yeah, I'll have to come back and take it as an action away, Chair, if I can, to come back to Councillor Gareth, just so I can review the how the money's distributed, to be sure.
Yeah, I think I know the answer. I don't think there's anything in the settlement, but I just wanted to clarify.
I don't think so either, Councillor Gareth, but I'd rather take it away and have a quick review of it.
Yeah, thank you, Nan.
Okay, let's get back to priorities. Does that conclude 3? And we've touching on some of 4 as well, which is page 64 on your pack. I assume, Judith, that this objective is with yourself.
It is indeed, yes.
Anything to say on that, or
no, just happy to take questions. We're looking at strengthening provision for pupils with ALN.
Okay, Angela, do you want to re-ask your question now in relation to able and talented?
Thank you very much. And it links. Yeah, no, that's fine, Judith. It links on with what we've said. So we've talked about children who are elected home educated. Can I just make the point there that I do know some families and actually they're having a superb education. So we mustn't just assume it's a negative, although obviously as a local authority, we have some responsibility to ensure that all those children are being well cared for, etc. So just make that point. It's not necessarily bad. And we've talked about, Simon, thank you for bringing that forward. You talked about the emotionally based school avoidance. So those are children registered with us, supposed to be going to school and for various reasons aren't. But what we didn't talk about, and this links in here, is those pupils who have an ALN. It may be registered, it may be recognised, it may be medical, or it might not be. There's a grey area, isn't there, of children who are struggling in a variety of ways. And some of those children are not in school, either because the parents aren't happy that their needs are being met within the school that they're allocated to, or that they're transitioning between schools and their places hasn't quite been sorted for various reasons. Either the parents want a space in a special school and the local authority don't feel that's the right provision, or the other way around, the parents want a space in a mainstream school and the local authority don't think. So I know of cases from my own small ward where there are children who are now in October not in school, either because, for those reasons. So how are we going to strengthen their outcomes if they're not attending?
Who's picking up on that? There we go. Judith.
Yes, what I would like to say on this point, Councillor Angela, is that we work on a case-by-case basis with these families, and it's really important for us to engage personally to understand the issues and the problems of getting the right placement for the child. I think it's good to note that we're set in the process of setting up a transition panel, which will alleviate some of the issues we've seen around transition, both into school and between primary and secondary and further on. So that should make a big difference to transition pinch points for these children as well.
Good. Thank you, Judith. Anything else on objective 4?
Chair, I recognise that the point I'm trying to make is so individual that it's difficult for us to discuss it here. And Judith and I have had a conversation, but I think it's important to flag up that we are aware that there are children currently not in school for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, I think it all sits in the context as well of the huge increase in ALN need nationally, not just in Powys, but nationally, and the massive increase in the number of school IDPs and LA IDPs within our authority and nationally as well, Councillor Angela. So I do understand your concern, and like you said, we are working on that individually with families, but it does sit around the context of the whole increase in the need for provision as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, just a couple of points on that, Chair. Does that mean then if there's an increase in pressures on the number of individual and school IDPs that there's going to be a growth, we can expect to see a growth bid coming forward for the 26-27 financial year? The other point I wanted there, the biggest concern I have raised with me around ALN is the speed or the lack of it in actually getting the process and the support down to the school level.
Okay, Simon had put his hand up with the previous, so he has an opportunity now to
Thank you, Chair. And I think all of these points just highlight the huge, shall I say, crisis for additional learning needs across the nation. We know that since 2018, there's been a 38% increase of children who need access to a special school across Wales. So what that tells us is that the need is getting more complex, the need is getting more severe, and the children who are accessing special schools are needing that real specialist care. I should also say that I think we as a local authority are recognising more and better children who have got those complex needs, and our schools are highlighting those needs much earlier to us as well. And again, that is showing an increase in the number of local authority IDPs as well. So that's all kind of tied up into the same question around increased capacity, increased funding, and how, as part of this IDP, we're looking at that equity across the county and ensuring that there are the right number of places in the right place in the county.
Thank you, Simon. Nancy's coming back in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on Councillor Gareth's point with regards to the increase in IDPs, the service will need to ensure that that is reflected, should they wish to, on the finance resource model as we work towards the budget process.
Thanks, Nancy. I note your point, Angela. I guess you're coming in on this, but I've got Dr. Richard and Judith reacting to previous comments. Dr. Richard.
Oh, thanks so much, Chair. Yeah, I think there's no doubt this is an area of challenge, isn't it? And as we've said, you know, we've got improved systems and processes going into our schools. We can see that evidenced in the fact that there are more schools, school IDPs and LA IDPs. So we're working better to get to know individual children. So our systems and processes are increasing the demand in the system. Simon has spoken about that Wales-wide increase in need in the system. We know that our central resource can't meet that need. It's as blunt as that. And certainly, it's struggling to meet need now. yet alone in the future when we know that demand is going to increase. So I think there's a really important point that I just want to make here about how we build capacity in the school system. And Judith might want to come in this in the moment, but the way we're going to get sustainable to meet the needs of all of our learners is to make sure that we grow at a school level the ability to meet the needs of a greater range of learners, so that we need to distribute the resource into our schools. And we are working on doing that with some really concrete strategies. And Judith, you may want to speak about the ALENCO network, the head teacher steering group. So I'll hand over to you just to demonstrate how we're building that capacity in schools. Otherwise, the system's going to snap.
Yes, absolutely. We're both on the same wavelength there. We're really conscious that we need to, number one, upskill staff, build capacity at local levels in order to meet the needs. And some of the ways we're doing this are by working in a targeted way with our ALENCOs. We held our first ALENCO network meeting this week, which was really well attended. I think we had over 50 ALENCOs present, and in that forum we were really able to share messages. We allowed ALENCOs to work together to upskill each other, and what came from that as well was the willingness of ALENCOs to work collaboratively on inquiry to increase their skills and knowledge. And that's something we're working on alongside the school improvement team. So we're looking to build capacity in our school system as well as centrally. We've also had a head teacher reference group, strategic reference group set up, which was really proactive in looking at ways in which we can support schools and in which schools can support themselves and move provision forward within the ALN arena. That's co-chaired by a head teacher, and so there's a huge amount of collaborative working going on to build that capacity within our school system as well. Thank you. Diolch.
Good. We're still on objective 4.
Sorry.
Quite a few, no, that's absolutely fine. We've got quite a few people waiting to speak. I'll just remind members and officers that we have got a 12:30 conclusion. So I will have to leave at 12:30 because I have a funeral anyway. So just a warning for Councillor Lucy there, that if we do continue. I've got James looking to come in and Sally, and then I've got Angela raising a point as well.
Thank you, Chair. Just to say, I just wanted to reprise the very correct point that Councillor Davis made earlier on around the responsibilities of other agencies in this field as well. And it is, if you take the issue of IDPs, individual development plans, yes, the local authority has a lead role in that, but goodness me, so do other agencies. And indeed, some of the it's not just about the provision of an IDP, it's also about the delivery of therapies to children with additional learning needs. Again, not the direct responsibility of the local authority to deliver, but which have an absolutely crucial role in the ability of those young people to get the best education that we can provide for them. And I think the obvious one being speech therapy, but there are others, and physiotherapy and others as well. And so this is very much a multi-agency responsibility, not just for the local authority, but it is, of course, for us to try and drive the improvement as the lead authority in this. But I just wanted to remind members that we don't forget that this isn't just about Powys County Council. This is about coordinating work across multi-agencies. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Sally.
Just wanted to make a very quick point around quality first teaching and learning as a really important aspect of supporting learners regardless of their needs, to have that quality first response to each learner's need, which I know is a challenge for our teachers. There's got to be professional learning around that. There's got to be support for our teachers as to how to understand that. And where it's working well in the system, we can link schools up who are finding that a challenge with schools who are finding ways to overcome some of those difficulties. That's where we can build capacity from within the system. So that's school-to-school collaboration and inquiry, as Judith said, about the most effective best bets that we have to support everybody to increase their capacity for quality first teaching.
Good. Coming back to you, Councillor Angela, before a comment off Simon.
I just want to thank officers. You know, I really support everything they say, but one thing that I don't think has been covered here, we really need some pace here, because our schools, although their function of a school is the teaching and learning of our pupil, we're going to move on to the next two key targets, which are about the provision and the education of our children. But unless we get this bit that we're talking about here right, that impacts on the outcomes for the whole cohort, doesn't it? And I do feel very, very strongly that we've got to be working closer with our schools, because our school staff are dedicated and devoted to their pupils. They have been going over and above for a long time. They're giving them breakfast, they're looking after them during the day, they're giving them their tea. In many cases, they're picking up children and taking them home after school, all bar putting them to bed at night. Our schools are filling in a function over and above their duty, and many of our school staff are emotionally drained. They are at breaking point, because you know, they really care so much for their pupils. So I like everything you've said here, but please, can we ensure we have some pace here to bring these new measures in, to be supporting our school staff, to be supporting the families, because otherwise we are going to fail on our primary function, which is the education of those children. So just to make that point. Thank you, Chair.
Point well made, Angela. Simon, final point on objective 4.
I think just to triangulate everything together, we've also got our behaviour working group as well, which is led by head teachers. So we are having the information from head teachers, from the local authority, from the health board, from parents, and bringing that all together with all views of stakeholders to ensure that we can work together collaboratively to move this forward.
Thank you. Okay, an interesting, Councillor Allard, final point.
Very, very quick point. Can all these working groups, strategies, third sector, can it be all mapped somewhere? Because I'm quite clueless about, you know, there's so many stuff coming from different direction. I'm clueless about the total impact of it. Thank you.
Yes, of course, we can do that. That's not a problem.
Thank you, Judith. We move on to objective 5, which is page 75. Quickly scrolling.
Okay.
Who's me? Marianne.
Marianne, okay.
Go on, Marianne.
Right, so the last two objectives are mine. So the objective 5 it's around ensuring that all learners have appropriate pathways. And within this objective, there's 3 elements. So the first is around post-16, and that clearly links to Estin's very clear recommendation around our post-16 offer. The second is at the other end of the scale, so it's early years. So it's about that joined up approach to early years between ourselves and children's services and other partners. And then the third element of this objective is around Welsh medium pathways and improving our Welsh medium pathways linked to the WESP. So I'll take any questions now.
Members, just on objective 5 first, please. Oh, silence, Marianne. Oh, Councillor Allard's not going to let you get away. Go on, Councillor Allard.
When is the WESP going to be reviewed? Because I consider there's significant weaknesses within it, but
the WESP is reviewed after 5 years. So it was launched in 2022, so in a few years.
So you're working on it already then?
Yeah, well, we review it every year. Okay, so the WESP is reviewed every year. We send a report back to Welsh Government, but then after the 5th year, there's a more substantial review to take place.
Okay, diolch yn fawr.
Councillor Lucy.
Yeah, it was just in relation to post-16, and you know, glad to hear that there is some pace, because we're in danger of losing pupils over the border in the time that they're kind of wondering what the future holds and thinking they'll go somewhere where they know that their future's secure, rather than taking a chance still in Paris. So, but also very keen that we take on board the views of pupils and staff in, you know, and don't just look for a one-size-fits-all result. Thank you.
Yep. will the point well made once again, Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm quite disappointed with the section around early years. It's a line and a half in the paper in the priority. You know, going back to the previous discussion we just had around ALN, etc. I think early years is one of the key areas. We actually, you know, I've had a recent case where a child was permanently excluded. And I think if there had been better early years provision, such as Judith's been providing at Gulagacum previously, you know, I think that child wouldn't have needed that. His education abilities would be better suited. But you know, it's just a weak page and a half, line and a half. It's you know, it doesn't say anything, does it? You know, I think that section needs to be strengthened a lot.
I take your point, and absolutely fundamental, isn't it, that we get them started off on the right foot. But now with what we'll be doing now is looking at the overall IDP, and then we'll be looking at how can we improve the integration between the different objectives, because you know there are actions in all the objectives linked to early years, to ALN, etc. So we'll need to plan that in a more cohesive way. But I take your point on that, Gareth.
To me, it seems as though it's going backwards to what it was 7 or 8 years ago.
Okay. Eirig.
Yeah, just to make the point that in our Estin report, our early years provision actually came out as one of our main strengths. Hence why we haven't put as much into here, because they are actually one of the leading areas within our education system.
So why aren't we saying in this document that we learn from what they're doing, the good practices that they're doing?
We've already done that. We've actually had them present not only to the education service but also to other services as well, and sharing their good practice and how they get that information, share it with their systems. And we've taken on board some of that in our school improvement in the ways we're working now in terms of how they do that. So yeah, there's some recognition there of what the strengths that they have in their areas. Yes, there's areas that we can improve on, which is why we're trying to work more collaboratively with children's services to bring that cohesion there. And we need to do that with ALN as well.
Okay. Thank you. Just go back to screen. Councillor Angela.
Yeah, accepting what Eirik says, that early years did have a good Estin inspection, but it is important that we get that right. Certainly in my ward, we notice that if there's been a larger cohort into the Kilchmaithrin as opposed to the English stream, then that will feed into the Welsh stream of the primary school. And if we're talking about post-16 and the all through proposed school in Bilf, then we need to ensure that enough pupils, enough families are choosing Welsh medium education at primary level. So I just really want to make the point that, you know, whilst they did have a good report, we notice it goes up and down, probably according to, you know, if you've got one very charismatic parent that chooses Welsh medium, others follow, sort of thing. But yeah, that just making that point, that's
yeah, important. No, thank you. It's an important point, and I think Councillor Gareth's point is a little bit more detail so that it's sustained and shared, isn't it? Judith.
Yes, I just want to come in and reassure people that we've got really close working relationships now between the early years team and the early years ALN team. And the early years PIP group is a multi-agency forum. So we have health sitting on that. We have early years Elenco team plus the early years team itself. So it's working in a very multi-agency forum basis, and the relationship between the two sectors is far improved, which means that early identification of these little ones is at the forefront of everything we're doing at the moment. I just wanted to give that reassurance.
Thank you for that reassurance. Councillor Alid, please.
Thank you, Gwynfor. I can't see anything about the accessibility for all potential early years children. It's in some areas it's really difficult with accessibility. and almost non-existent as a result. Is there something? Do you carry stats on people who don't have access to it? Thank you.
Bit confused with that, Aled, but is there anybody picking up on that?
In terms of access to early years provision?
Yeah, kill 23 or anything else.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, we do have numbers attending the Kilchweithrins, and that's published in our West report as well.
Yeah, but do you have numbers about how many don't have access to?
In terms of how many learners haven't got access to Kilchweithrin?
Yes.
Yeah, we can get that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. If I may, can I extend that request? Because if I remember rightly, there was some quite strange travel times, distances required for access for children to have access to early years provision.
Exactly.
I assume that's not being met by the authority at the moment because it was unachievable 10 years ago. So it'd be a good idea to know where the locations are and what the furthest distance a child needs to travel to access such a provision.
Yeah, we can do a bit of mapping around that.
Okay, thanks for that, Marianne.
Marianne, oh sorry, Chair, can I just have a note of caution there, because some parents actually choose to go to early years provision where their work is rather than where they actually live. So we just need to have that note of caution there that they actually can access the early years provision where they request it rather than actually next to their home. So there may be a little bit of a mismatch there.
Fully understand that, Irene, but I know I've got ward members who would need to travel 10 miles to access to an early years provision, and I got a feeling the rules are something like 3.
Okay, we can do some work.
Yeah.
Councillor Gareth.
Okay, I'm not seeing anybody else indicating, so unless anybody shouts, we're going to move to objective 6, which is with Marianne once again. Members, be aware that some of the detail in this we are discussing in a confidential session shortly, so please don't stray into individual schools, but please ask some strategic questions if there's need to be. Marianne, any introduction?
Just quickly here, so this is about improving the learning environment for all learners in Powys. So it includes the immediate a recommendation from Estyn to improve our site safeguarding arrangements. There's a separate paper on that one and a separate discussion in a while, and I have got property colleagues on the call. Then it's about our transformation programme, which includes school reorganisation, and it includes the Sustainable Communities for Learning programme and the new builds. And then lastly, it's around improving the digital infrastructure, the digital offer in our schools. Okay.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Gareth.
Yeah, mine's not a question, Chair. Mine's most likely point out an error in the paper. If you look under objective resources needed, it says 1.7 million to fund programme and works in 24-25, which is closed. I assume that should be 25-26. Also, that figure 1.7 million is a different figure in later papers. It's shown as 1. I know it's only peanuts, but it's shown as 1.7, so a little bit of consistency. But I don't know whether this has gone to Estyn yet. But if it has, it's a pity. We've got a simple data error in it.
That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, so just clarify, it is 24-25 then, isn't it?
No, it's 25-26.
25-26, sorry.
It should be 25-26.
Yeah, okay. Councillor Aled.
It's a little bit more than just school fencing, really. Big page 86 that had titles on planned end date and planned start date are the wrong way around, I assume. But it is referencing finance panel and other committees we sit on about dire warnings from the finance team about the affordability of capital going forward. I don't see much reference in this. Sometimes you listen to them and it sounds as though there will be zero capital budget in the future when there's quite ambitious plans within this area. Does the availability of capital feature within your action deliveries?
In terms of any programmes of works, then we will be bringing every project will have a business case and will have to be scrutinised through Cabinet and onto Welsh Government if that's the case. So we do understand the impact on the capital programme of our ambitious school building programme, but you know, the need is there, and if we do not invest, then we will back to square one, and we will have to find the money to keep the schools going. So that's, you know, we'll be bringing business cases on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah, I got no doubt, and I totally agree with you there, Marianne. But I think other parts of the council need to be convinced, and there needs to be some joined up thinking before putting forward ambitious plans and then disappointing various communities. Thank you.
Final word there from Aled. Councillor Fleer, welcome.
Hi all, thank you very much. I just wanted a bit of clarification, really. I see the site security, but I couldn't see any mention of actual cyber security, and just wondered if there'd been any risk assessments or what were the plans if there was a breach in cyber, especially taking on what's been happening lately with all the others. And if there is a cyber security, is there funding in place for that?
Irig's put his hand up there.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, we've provided support to schools on cybersecurity at the start of this academic year. They should now have a policy in place about what they should be doing in terms of informing their IT provider and getting that information together, so that if a cyber incident does happen, they have the processes and procedures in place to actually be able to limit what can be accessed during that time as well. In terms of funding, no, there's no additional funding to that, because they should be able to provide that within their ICT provision that they get from their support providers.
Okay. Do you think it should be mentioned anywhere in there? Is it? And I completely missed it. Sorry.
No, it's probably because something we have been working on prior to the work that we've been doing on the IBP as well. I don't want you to think that we've missed it out. We have actually been doing work on this as well. It's just not mentioned inside there. It's over and above what we've put inside the IBP.
Okay, thank you.
That's no problem.
Fleer, you've got everybody searching the document now with cyber security. So yeah, no.
Well, I just put cyber in and I couldn't see.
Oh, right, okay. Councillor Angela.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the 21st Century School programme. That's been ongoing for quite some time, new schools going up. I'm just wondering now, have we got evidence that the new schools have met the need? So have we got any evidence that the new schools, the better provision, sort of physical school space, has improved educational outcomes?
An interesting question. One of the things that we do need to do, and we have committed to this previously, and we need to programme it in, is to do that an impact assessment, a lessons learned case study kind of thing with some of our schools. We have been intending on doing something around the Welsh school transformation, where we had 2 schools there. So that'll be a piece of work we'll do and bring it back to this forum once that's done. Okay.
And I wonder, with reference, Aled made a reference to budget and spend, is there any way we can make a judgment on value for money? So, you know, if the council's committing money to the 21st school programme scheme, and I'm liking to think that maybe my school will get on there at some point, but can we evidence that it's value for money, that we need to be spending this money to improve these school sites?
So in our business cases, we do have that very strong section on value for money and sort of the economic aspect of it all. And obviously, every school building project will have its own case. You know, the reasons for the project will be different for each one. So it's important that these are considered on that case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Richard.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Chair. I think Councillor Angela makes a really important point there. As Marianne said, we have been looking at it. As you know, when we bring school reorganisation proposals through, there are impact assessments in those. we have strengthened the section around the educational benefits of change. So it's not just about financial savings. It can't be that. It's got to work for the young people in Powys. But I think the suggestion that you've made, and it is a conversation we've been having about what does an impact assessment look like potentially 1 year after, 3 year after, and 5 year after transformation has taken place. I think could be a really great recommendation from the committee, and we could start by looking at transformation which has occurred in the Maestr cluster and the impact on the outcomes of those primary schools there.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good. Thank you. And finally, I'm going to ask a question in relation to just finding it now. So at the beginning of the document, it says about service objective success criteria and performance. So it says by June 25. So I'm going to ask the question because this is where we measure. Is that in operation now? Because that should be up and running as June 25. And then by January 26, all schools demonstrate improved site safety through completed remedial works. Well, we've got a comprehensive list. Are we saying that that comprehensive list is going to be addressed by January 26?
The first one, by June 2025, a fully operational school-specific site security tracking and monitoring system is in place. I can confirm that that is in place, and that was put in place pretty quickly after Estyn had come in. The guys are here, they can talk about the programme in terms of where we are. There's a lot of work that's already been done over the summer period, and obviously we're aiming to get the most highest priority, highest risks and medium risks completed by sort of the end of this year. And the guys can go into more detail about them. Okay.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about the practicality of naming January 26 because it clearly says that all schools remedial work. Well, is that are we going to be up to date on that, or do we need to have a more realistic figure?
As with everything, there's a starting point, and we put a date in. But obviously, other things come out of the woodwork, don't they? School issues occur. So I think one thing that we have to be mindful of here is that the school improvement program, in terms of the buildings and major improvements program, the site security work, it has to have some adaptability. It has to be like a flexible program, because we won't be able to achieve everything by then, because we know things come out of different issues arise, etc. So I don't know whether Gwilym or Neil, do you want to come in there?
I think Marianne, you covered the points. This is also a changing scenario with new works being identified all the time as schools do risk assessments. But what we have got in place is a work programme that does address the high priority and medium priority works appropriately. And where we can't undertake that within immediate timeframes, we look to do risk assessments and manage the work in line with the school as well.
Okay, we'll develop that further later, Gwilym, but acknowledge what you're saying. Members, I think that it's explored all our questions. Are you content to leave the plan where it is now? And we move on to the next agenda item. Okay, we'll move to the next agenda item. Thanks for everybody for contributing to that item. I actually recognize the energy and the enthusiasm and the drive from officers throughout that. And I really do welcome that, and it goes a long way to resolving the issues that we identified or Estyn have identified through us. So thank you, officers, for taking us through that. We now go to scrutiny recommendations to Cabinet in relation to the IBP. One of the recommendations which was clear throughout was KPIs and performance and achieving. So a recommendation that we link all this together. We recognize the answers, etc. But we need to be clear as a scrutiny committee that the right challenge is there that we're achieving through these targets. So that's one of the recommendations. Anything else? The one recommendation which I liked, and Dr. Richard welcomed it, was in relation to a piece of work being done in relation to, Councillor Angela raised it in relation to, was transformation providing the outcomes which we wanted, or which we want. So I quite like that as a recommendation. Please speak up, members.
Yeah.
Councillor Angela.
I'd like a clear commitment that we're going to be working with our schools. Everybody has said that, but I think I would like it in writing. So working with them, they're an important partner. And I agree, I would like that impact of the new schools, the new builds on educational outcomes, and I suppose on budget as well, the value for money. Yeah.
I think one of the things which we spoke about, go on, Councillor Lucy, you might be raising that point.
No, I was just going to say reviewing governor recruitment, in particular LEA governor recruitment.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Lucy. We spoke about pace a lot as well.
Yeah.
Can we formulate a recommendation in relation to pace in the document? Would that be fair, members?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, good.
Haven't got much more. I know we went into great detail into individual things. Kath, did you note anything else that I've left go by the wayside? No? Okay. Is everybody happy with them recommendations, or is there more to add?
We promised a bit of a mapping around the support systems.
Mapping.
Oh, and added to that then, so some sort of training or introduction for how we're going to have these papers coming forward to make sure that we can give that robust scrutiny to them.
And accessibility to early years data.
We also requested some information around the process followed for elective home education.
Yeah, everybody happy to add these things?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Back to the agenda. Sorry, I'm rushing a little bit, but it's 11:51. I don't want to give this document due attention. Right, so this takes us to item 8 on the agenda, which looking for a proposal to go into confidential item to discuss item 9. The reason is because it's deemed a category 7. And that access of information. So is anybody happy to propose that we go into exemption?
Chair, can I'm happy to propose that we go into confidential session, but I think officers should be aware that we discussed this quite a lot in our pre-meeting, and we had major concerns that some of this data should not be in confidential session. And, you know, for consideration in future that they consider the paper to give us some general information. I think the members of the public should be aware of what schools are having works allocated. I don't want them to have the detail, but, you know, I think some consideration around how we present that data for future, so we can have part discussion in public and part discussion in confidential. But I'm happy to propose.
Yeah, no, thank you for that proposal. I think we're all in agreement in relation to that, particularly as we are directed by Wales Audit to not take too many items into confidentiality, because a lot of the information is public knowledge, but obviously we understand the sensitivity of some of this data. So maybe that's something we need to deal with swifter, or I need to deal with swifter when I learn it's a confidential item. So thanks for raising that, Gareth. And
so accepting all that's been said, Chair, I'm happy to
thank you.
Second.
That's what I was looking for. So we'll now go into confidential items, so which I believe means that Kath will stop recording, and we'll wait for any